you so much for joining me. My name is Tori, and I am the outreach educator for the Friends of the WNC Nature Center, which means that I'm usually the traveling animal lady. So generally I'm going around to schools and libraries and all sorts of other facilities, bringing animal education programs to people who can't necessarily visit the Nature Center, but while we are closed, I am bringing those animal programs right to your homes, and I am doing that from my home. So today we're going to do a really fun session about animal questions that our members actually asked. So we reached out to our members and said, what are your burning animal questions? What are you wondering about our animals, about being a zookeeper? And we got some responses. So I'm going to be answering some of those questions for you today. So our first question comes from Lily. And Lily wants to know, what does an alligator eat? And that is an excellent question. So alligators, for those of you that don't know, are carnivores, which means that they are meat eaters. They have really, really big sharp teeth, and they use those sharp teeth to tear into meat. So they definitely eat lots of meat. It really depends on how old and how big they are. So when alligators are young, they're eating things like insects and small fish. As they turn into adults, they're going to be going after larger fish, small mammals like raccoons, snakes, and even some small birds. So they're not wonderful at jumping, but they can occasionally catch something that's feathery that has wings as well. So alligators are known as opportunistic feeders, which is a very scientific, polite way of saying that they're not very picky. So they will pretty much go after anything that they're going to be able to catch. And there's some other animals that live here in the mountains that we consider opportunistic feeders, and those are possums, raccoons, and black bears. Those are all wonderful examples of animals that aren't very picky when it comes to their diet. All right, our next question is from Caleb, and Caleb wants to know, why do snapping turtles snap? And that is a very good question. Why do they snap? And it's not just because they're grumpy. Snapping turtles snap because they can't actually pull into their shells. So there's a fun fact for you. Not all turtles pull into their shells. And snapping turtles don't have enough shells on their belly. Basically, there's not enough shell there for them to pull into. So they have to have some other way of defending themselves. And one way that they do that is to snap. Now, if you ever see a snapping turtle that's trying to cross the road and you want to help it, which we do think that helping turtles cross the road is a very important thing, but there's a few things to remember, especially with snapping turtles. So you never ever want to try to pick this animal up by its shell. Snapping turtles have very long necks, and so if you're picking up in the middle of their shell, they might be able to turn that neck around and still be able to bite you, which is not going to be good for anybody. So instead, what we recommend is that you sort of scoot the turtle along towards the back end there and scoot it along in the direction it's already going. If you happen to have a shovel, you can sort of like scoot the turtle up underneath the belly and move it in the direction it's already going. That's important. Always go in the direction that turtle is facing. But we never, 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 no matter what the species of turtle, want to pick up that turtle by their tail. So turtles' tails are attached to their spines. It's one big long piece of bone. So if you do pick a turtle up by the tail, there's a really serious risk that that turtle could get a permanent injury. So if you do want to help the turtle cross the road, there are definitely safe ways that you can do so. All right, our next question is from Isaac. And Isaac wants to know, do people go into the otter habitat to feed them, or do they just climb a ladder and toss their food in? And that is definitely something that for the otters, every animal at the Nature Center is different, but for the otters, we never go into their habitats to drop their food. So even though otters look really, really cute and cuddly, they have very, very sharp teeth. They are carnivores. They're in the weasel family, so you can think of them as giant swimming weasels. So we always want to make sure that we're being safe. So instead, we will stand up. We have a very high rock, and we'll toss in pieces of food. We want our otters to work for their food, so we'll throw some into the water, some up on land, just like they would have to work for their food in the wild. So we try to mimic that wild behavior. So not only is this good exercise for our otters, it gives them some sort of enrichment as well, because every time we toss the food, it's going to go somewhere different, and they have to use their natural senses to find their food. All right, our final question is from Liam, and I saved this one for last, because it is, warning, a poop question, and I love a good poop question. So our question is, what is the biggest pile of poop you've ever cleaned, And what animal was it from? Liam, I love where your head's at. So the biggest pile of poop that I've ever cleaned up was from one of our black bears. So black bears are known for producing quite a lot of waste. They eat a lot of fibrous things, lots of nuts and berries and seeds, and generally when they do poop, you can see tiny little seeds in their poop, and that's a really good way to identify what type of poop, or scientific word, scat, so what type of scat you are looking at. So definitely the largest pile of scat that I've ever picked up was from a black bear, but I will also tell you the smelliest scat that I have ever picked up or cleaned up was from a snake. Snakes have some of the smelliest poops I've ever smelled. So there's another fun fact for you guys. Thank you so much for sending in your questions. I love answering animal questions. I would love to do another one of these sessions, so please feel free to add more animal questions in the comments below, and I will make another video answering our animal questions part 2. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I will see you for our next Wild at Home. Bye!